Pleased to be joined by Andrew Harvie today, who's the author for the website Beyond the Contour, which I guess reviews golf courses and probably a little bit more behind it. Andrew, thanks for joining us today. I guess obviously you're a golf fan, you're a player. I guess you'll back up a little bit. What's your story with the game?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Lethbridge, Alberta. So Saskatchewan was never, I don't want to say the place that you didn't go. But it was, we have the prairies in Alberta, right? So as I started playing more in Alberta, and some of the people that I played against were like, "Hey, there's good golf in Saskatchewan." I really got interested in that. So I grew up playing tournament golf in Alberta. Some of the guys I remember playing against were like Cade Johnson, Roman Timmerin, some of those guys. And yeah, I just kept hearing about some of these golf courses in Saskatchewan. So I played the Saskatchewan Amateur, I believe, at Dakota Dunes, and I played Riverside on the same trip. So that was my first introduction to the province. And then last summer, so I guess 2021, I went to Waskesiu, Prince Albert, and Elk Ridge.
Yeah, obviously some fantastic courses. So I guess 2018 that would have been my first summer with Golf Saskatchewan. It's crazy that you were there, and we're talking here today. But so you live in Toronto now. I guess what took you out there?
What took me out here? So school was the main reason. I went to school in the States and at a small NAIA school in Texas, on a golf scholarship, and I just didn't really get along with the coach necessarily, different personalities. And that's a big part of collegiate golf, right? Is the fit.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. And so I just didn't feel like it was the right one for me. So I started exploring options, and there's a PGM, like a professional golf management program here in the city of Toronto. And I said, that'd be kind of fun I haven't been to the East Coast really. Like I was just like, let's just go out, new adventure, explore. And I just came out here, and all of a sudden, you start playing a bunch of stuff and meeting some cool people, and it was obviously a great decision, I think.
That's interesting considering you're from Lethbridge, and I do believe is there not a golf management program there?
I think it closed down because I did look at that.
Okay.
So there definitely was at Lethbridge College, but I don't think there is anymore. As far as I know, there's only one PGM program out west. And I think it's online actually through like Selkirk College or whatever in BC. So
okay, that definitely could be the case. I know just some of the pros I've talked to, have gone through that Lethbridge program. You just happen to be there. Crazy, that you cross that path or that bridge or whatever. So I want to talk to you about, I guess, just the website, and we'll get to PA and Waskesiu as mentioned. But tell us a little bit about this website and exactly what your idea is there.
Yeah, the website's funny. I've had it since I was 14 years old. And it originally started as drewharvie.com, and it was a creative way for me to both sort of like, network a little bit, but use it as a college recruitment tool. So on there, you're journaling scores and where you play, and just kind of like thoughts on the golf swing, like just random stuff. And like at 14 years old, it's obviously not well written at all. And I can't believe anybody read it, but so that would have been 14 years old. So 2012. So we're actually a decade in. And last year, about this time, I would say like October 2021, I had done some writing around the city and in Vancouver, for some of the golf, smaller blog stuff and whatever. And I just figured like, why don't I do it myself? Some of the stuff that I was pitching to these guys, they didn't want to undertake, they didn't want to do it, so I just said, let's just do it ourselves. So a couple guys came on with me who I talked to about the vision. Obviously had to rebrand from drewharvie.com. That doesn't work for multiple writers, and we just kind of envisioned a website that covers golf in Canada on a different scale, right? Like Score Golf is very pro golf focused, big name course. And we wanted to highlight some of the little guys, some of the stuff that potentially doesn't get spotlight. And that's not to say that we don't, cover some of the big ones. Like I think I just published a piece where, this summer I played the 3 final top 100. So I played every top 10 in the country.
Wow.
And I wrote a piece on like why each one of them could be number one in the country, right? So there's still some of that the big name stuff, the pro golf stuff potentially. But the main focus was really having another voice in the country to read on, and B, cover some of the stuff that we thought was kind of getting potentially overlooked.
Yeah, for sure. Those bigger markets and whatnot, they have their own teams kind of thing. So they help the little guys for sure. It's a big one for us, Waskesiu. And as you mentioned in your tweet, you said it's the best golf course. I replied, you said maybe the best is Riverside in our little conversation there. And as I also said there, best is just a personal preference, right? But I want you to, take us into that round at Waskesiu, because you have played so many courses, amazing ones, and just, kind of orally tell us your version of it and kind of what you put to paper.
Yeah, Waskesiu, that's one of my best travel stories, because I work a full-time job in the golf industry in Toronto. So I work at St. George's, and I get 2 days off, but kind of the standard for the golf industry is obviously it's not Saturday, Sunday. So last year I got Monday, Tuesday off. So Sunday night after I open the shop, I fly to Saskatoon. I have a buddy coming from Edmonton, one of the guys that I played golf with a bit when I was out there. He's supposed to pick me up. My flight's a little delayed. He's a little bit late. So it was a later flight, obviously flying after, 6 to 2 shift or whatever. And he picks me up in Saskatoon at like 1 a.m. And now we have a 6:30 tee time at Waskesiu the next morning. So we go up and whatever, we don't get any sleep, and we show up to Waskesiu and we play. I think we were like second off maybe or whatever. And I was watching the forecast the entire week, just lucky that, it was all good. Like it was a very nice sunny day, and we tee off, and, I think pretty early on, you kind of get the gist of like, hey, this is a pretty good golf course. Cause it's, I'm writing this piece right now where it's like Seth Rayner and Stephen McDonald built these so-called template holes from the UK. So their sort of thing was, hey, they want to replicate the successful holes in the British Isles and bring it to North America. So that's how National Golf Links of America and Fisher's Island and stuff like this have been built. And the first hole at Waskesiu is like a borderline Alps hole, which is one of the templates. So you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then you get to the second hole and it's this crazy, like the front left is pitched so hard. And I see my 52-degree wedge, like the greens are, they roll 8 or 9, like they're the perfect speed for the amount of slope, but it kicks probably 30 feet long. And I'm just like, I can't even believe it. Right. And yeah, it was a pretty special day. We played 36 at Waskesiu, which was awesome. I had been told, like Cape Breton Highlands links, it's one that you should probably see twice, just because the first time there's a couple, awkward tee shots that you might not know where you're going and some of that stuff. So played it twice, and then we actually played all 27 in a cart at Elk Ridge after that.
Wow. Yeah, it's a heck of a day, a trip for sure. So when you say Waskesiu is the best in Saskatchewan, you have mentioned you played Riverside and many others, but why make that claim?
I like golf courses that are extremely natural. So when I look at golf, I think nature, right? I think that's one of the benefits of playing golf, is we get to enjoy nature, we get to experience nature. And if you separate, the settings, because they're both great settings for different reasons. Yeah, I think natural, like Waskesiu plays a little bit more with the hills. And I think there's just a bit more variety in like some of the shots you're asked to hit and sort of like side hill lies. For example, like 11, you're on this hanging little wedge lie and you're trying to land it short somewhere or try and fly it so you don't hit the slope. And that's not to say Riverside isn't great. Obviously, like I have Riverside well inside the top 100 in the country as well. I just think Waskesiu is a bit more, I guess, funky would be the word, and I appreciate uniqueness. And there's a couple holes at Riverside that I think maybe get a little, not bland but per se, but a bit more kind of stereotypical of what you'd think from like a call it country club.
I want to ask you about the history as well. They got the Gordie Howe thing there. He used to play in the lobstick, and the lobsticks are, monumental events, especially in our province, that fill up year after year. And, they got like the rustic, the benches, the rustic weather shelters. What's your thoughts on that? Because I think that's Waskesiu, the old log cabin pro shop, right?
Yeah, going to northern Canada to play golf is such an interesting experience. I think I made a clip I wrote that it's basically in the Arctic tundra, and I'm obviously just joking because I'm from, I'm trying to play into that Toronto stereotype a bit. And even Lethbridge is pretty far south for Canada standards. And I think Dr. James Harris emailed me and kind of, pushed back a bit. And he's the guy who wrote the Waskesiu history book.
I've interviewed him. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was kind of like, well, it's not really, it's the same latitude as Edmonton. And like, for me being from Lethbridge, Edmonton's basically northern tundra as well. So going to some of those places up in northern Canada, even Jasper has that same feel where it's very old school. It's very rustic. You almost feel like you're transported back in time. Like it's a pretty cool experience outside of the golf, just going to that town and seeing kind of the atmosphere, the vibe, and why everyone likes that town.
It really is amazing for sure. And you travel about 90 minutes south and you get to play Cooke Municipal, which is obviously another very historic, amazing golf course. You wrote a piece on that as well that they shared on their Facebook page, so people can go find it there, and I'll obviously share it as well. But I guess so, talk about your thoughts on Cooke, just another premier course in our province here.
Yeah, Cooke was interesting. The trip was based around Waskesiu, and that was the entire purpose because I had heard Waskesiu was very good. I don't know too many people that have played it, and that was sort of like the main thesis of the website was going to be golf courses that potentially are very good that you should go see that nobody really talks about. So we built this trip around Waskesiu, and then we managed to get somehow 2 rounds at Waskesiu in the morning and then 27 at Elkridge later. And then we had an extra day, and Cooke Municipal came up through talking with architect Andrew, and he said, hey, like this is a golf course on pure sand with some really interesting stuff going on. And yeah, I think that's very obvious right off the bat with the first hole, where you play over this ridge into this green that's kind of cut naturally into the slope that's on grade, and you're just like, and the second hole is the same, right? You got this natural green site almost in like a punch bowl ish. And then yeah, it's all good from there. I think that's a really, really good golf course that I think not a lot of people know about outside of Saskatchewan.
So what's the word that you share out there, obviously being in Toronto now, and yeah, from Lethbridge, as we've mentioned, but the prairies, what do you share, and what's the message you provide to all your friends in Ontario when they ask, like, what's it like, to play golf on the prairies?
Yeah, I get a lot of interesting reactions when I tell them that I've taken 2 golf trips to Manitoba and 1 to Saskatchewan over the past 2 years. And the thing that I think about is value, right? Yes. So Eagle's Nest here is generally probably one of, if not the best, public golf course in the area, and it's $260 or whatever. It's an insane amount of money. And you go play Waskesiu, which is probably better for $50, $60, whatever it is, if you're walking, and then obviously a little bit more with cart.
Yeah, 93, I think, this summer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, 93 driving. So that's obviously you could play almost 2.5 rounds at Waskesiu for the price you play Eagle's Nest. And I'd probably rather play Waskesiu. It's an interesting place to go because I think not a lot of people know about it. So it almost feels like you're stumbling upon a hidden gem. But then obviously you talk to people from the province, and they're like, oh yeah, like you Toronto people, even though I'm from Alberta, like you Toronto people don't even know what you're missing. So I just try and communicate that, hey, like there's some good stuff there. It's a bit of a drive for most people, like even from Saskatoon to Waskesiu to Elmwood to wherever you're going. Like it's more spread out than potentially Toronto is, because I think there's like 45 top 100s within 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever it is. But yeah, I think it's a great budget place to go, and I think a lot of people don't know how good you guys have it.
Yeah, for sure. And for us, 2 hours on the highway is nothing, because it's highway, open roads. You drink some coffee, turn on the country music, and you get ready for your round. I can't let you go, Andrew, without asking you what your favorite. We're not going to go best, but what's the course in Canada that you really enjoy and think that everyone has to put it on their list, no matter where you live?
I'll give you 2, because I think one's going to be obvious. It's pretty odd. It's pretty normal to say Jasper Park Lodge. I think that is, to me, it's my favorite golf course, and I also think it's the best in the country, personally. So it really blurs that line of, favorite best, which I think is a good quality to have. It's one of the most pleasant places to play, I think, in the country. And then a place that, if you like Waskesiu, let's say you've been to Cape Breton Highlands Links in Nova Scotia, you've played there, you like that as well. Because Waskesiu is very much like Cape Breton Highlands Links, although Cape Breton Highlands Links is just a little bit bigger. Is Elk Island outside of Edmonton. So it's a 9-hole Stanley Thompson in Elk Island National Park. And it's kind of got the same thing going on with Waskesiu, where it's just this crazy land. It's a bit wider. Some of the trees haven't come in as much. And it's just an insane golf course. It's just 9 holes of sensory overload.
We go back and look back a decade when you made this website at 14, and you tell yourself then keep going because you're going to get some great experiences from this. Did you ever believe that you would get to, say at your age that, well, I played the top 10 in Canada, etc.? Did you think that was reality?
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I'm at 94, the top 100 now. So I think I'll play. I think I'll complete it next year. But it kind of just started Alberta is really good for that, where growing up as a junior, Banff, Jasper, Wolf Creek, they were on the rota for events. Just through some interclub stuff, you play Pritis Greens maybe, and then all of a sudden Kananaskis becomes public again. And then I graduated high school in BC, so that obviously helped as well. And that's where my family still lives. So when I came out to Toronto, I played everything in the top 100 in the West, other than on Vancouver Island, which is still the case. And yeah, I guess, you come to Toronto, and it's actually funny. I started tweeting, and I think Twitter is a great platform to connect with people. And I started tweeting, and this golf architecture writer named Robert Thompson just says, "Hey, you want to come play St. Thomas?" And then all of a sudden you play St. Thomas, and then someone's like, "Oh, you want to come play, I don't know, Toronto Golf Club?" And then all of a sudden it's a spiral, right? If you start playing stuff, it just sort of, it's like a hill. The ball just starts rolling. So no, the answer is obviously not. 14 years old, I thought I was just using it to post some swing tips and some swing thoughts and tournament results, hoping a college coach in California, Arizona, Texas, Florida would see it. And it's funny how it evolves.
Yeah, well, here we are talking today because of Twitter. Where can people find you on the social media?
Twitter, I think it's at Drew Harvie for my personal one. So that's HARVIE. And then the website has its own Twitter. I think it's at Beyond Contour. It wouldn't let me do Beyond the Contour, so we had to cut the out. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks for doing this today, Andrew. The pieces are awesome, and keep doing what we're doing. The more people writing about golf, the better for our game.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.